Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk. I've got my boba tea right here. It's delicious. What do you have today?
Well, I'm sticking with my Americano. Just trying to get caffeinated before we dive into this one because it's a doozy.
Yeah, you got that right. You know how we do it here? Taking a look at something interesting going on in the world. And today, we're heading over to Taiwan.
Yeah, this is a fascinating one.
Oh, yeah. It's about identity. It's about politics. It's about bubble tea.
A lot of bubble tea.
And so much more. So, for those who haven't heard this story yet, let me catch you up.
Okay.
There's a Chinese woman been living in Taiwan for 8 years, married to a Taiwanese guy. And she runs a bubble tea shop.
Bubble tea shops are everywhere in Taiwan.
Institution, right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves bubble tea. I do too.
Yeah.
But anyway, she made this statement online, and she referred to Taiwan as Taiwan province.
No, that might
And so many Taiwanese people were outraged.
Yeah, that's a huge trigger for a lot of people in Taiwan.
Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah.
What's the big deal with calling it Taiwan province?
Well, it sounds like just a simple geographic term, but it's way more than that to Taiwanese people. They see it as China trying to diminish Taiwan's sovereignty, trying to say that Taiwan is nothing more than just a province of China.
Gotcha. So it kind of plays into that whole historical tension about Taiwan and China, who's in charge and all that.
Absolutely. And this idea that, Taiwan's hard-won autonomy is being threatened by China's influence.
Right. Yeah, so for a lot of Taiwanese people, especially those who, grew up in a democratic Taiwan, this is not just about words, it's about their identity.
Their very identity.
Defining themselves as separate from mainland China.
And to really grasp the depth of this reaction, we need to look back at the history of Taiwan and China.
Yeah, let's go back in time a little bit.
All right, so after the Chinese Civil War in 1949, the defeated nationalists established the Republic of China. They fled to Taiwan.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the communists, they established the People's Republic of China on the mainland.
So you basically had two separate entities, both claiming to be the legitimate government of China.
Exactly. And over the decades, Taiwan developed its own distinct identity, embracing democracy and moving further away from the mainland's authoritarian rule.
And that's kind of where you see this generational divide emerging, right?
Oh, absolutely. Younger Taiwanese who have grown up in a democratic Taiwan have a very strong sense of natural independence.
They just see themselves as Taiwanese, not Chinese.
Exactly. They don't identify with China and see Taiwan as its own separate entity.
Which brings us back to this bubble tea shop owner.
Yeah.
When she used the term Taiwan province, it just rubbed people the wrong way.
It really struck a nerve, especially among those younger generations.
Right. Yeah. But now she's claiming to be innocent. She's like, I can't choose where I was born.
Right.
I just used the term I grew up with.
Force of habit, right?
Yeah. But a lot of people are pushing back on that, saying, hey, you've lived here for 8 years now.
Yeah.
You should understand how sensitive this issue is.
You should know better, right? That's kind of the feeling.
Yeah. So it really brings up this question of, can someone from mainland China truly integrate into Taiwanese society?
Right. Is it even possible to bridge that gap given all this history and these ongoing tensions?
Especially with things like this happening. It's like, are you really one of us? Or are you?
Yeah. Where do your loyalties lie?
Where do your loyalties lie? And, it's not even just about her intent.
Right.
Even if she didn't mean any harm, the impact of her words was still hurtful and disrespectful to a lot of people.
It really highlights how sensitive this whole issue is. Feeds into these anxieties about China's influence on Taiwan and their ultimate goal of unification.
And China's not exactly being subtle about their intentions, are they?
No, they're not. They've been ramping up military drills near Taiwan, sending a very clear message.
Yeah, show of force for sure.
Yeah.
But it goes beyond the military stuff too, right?
Absolutely. They're using their economic leverage and media influence to try and sway public opinion in Taiwan as well.
It's almost like they're trying to squeeze Taiwan from all sides.
Yeah, exactly. It's what they call united front work.
What is that?
It's basically a strategy to influence individuals and organizations outside of the Chinese Communist Party to advance their interests.
So they're trying to win over hearts and minds?
Exactly, and they're using it extensively in Taiwan.
So give me some examples. What does this united front work look like in action?
Well, one way is through influencers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there have been reports of Chinese authorities paying Taiwanese YouTubers to create pro-China content.
Wow. So they're trying to shape the narrative online.
Exactly. And there have also been cases where Taiwanese influencers have been criticized for filming in sensitive areas like Xinjiang, arguably presenting a very sanitized image of China to their followers.
So it's kind of like propaganda by stealth.
In a way, yeah.
Wow. And what else are they doing?
Well, they're also using religion in cultural exchanges as a way to build influence. For example, you have collaborations between temples in Taiwan and China. These are presented as cultural bridges, but some people see it as a way to kind of blur the lines between the two entities.
To make them seem closer than they actually are.
Exactly.
But then there's the more serious stuff too, right? Like the whole military espionage angle.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Taiwan's National Security Bureau has reported on China's attempts to recruit active Taiwanese military personnel through retired veterans.
So they're not just trying to win over the public, they're also trying to infiltrate Taiwan's defenses.
That's right. It's a serious security concern for Taiwan.
Yeah, that's pretty unsettling. But then we also have the whole media influence situation.
Right.
Didn't Taiwan have a big movement a few years back protesting against Chinese influence in the media?
Yeah, you're talking about the anti-red media movement,
right,
where people protested against alleged Chinese influence over certain Taiwanese media outlets.
So they were worried about China manipulating public opinion through the media.
Exactly. They were concerned about disinformation and propaganda being spread through these outlets.
So it's not just about military pressure. It's about controlling the narrative and shaping how people think.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah, and with all of these things happening, it's no wonder that Taiwanese people are feeling a bit on edge.
They're seeing their democracy and their way of life being threatened.
It's almost like a perfect storm is brewing.
Yeah.
You got increased military pressure, economic pressure, espionage, and this really strong sense of Taiwanese identity.
And it all feeds into this sense of unease and distrust.
And then something like this bubble tea incident happens.
Right.
And it just brings all of those anxieties bubbling to the surface.
It's a microcosm of the larger geopolitical struggle.
Yeah, but what if we flip the script? What if Taiwan was the dominant power?
Okay.
And China was the one struggling for recognition and autonomy?
That's a fascinating thought experiment.
Let's explore that.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's flip the script and see where it takes us. It's one that's definitely complicated, and there are lots of different opinions about it.
All right, so imagine a world where Taiwan is calling the shots and China is viewed as a large outlying island.
Okay, I like where this is going.
What would that look like?
I don't know.
Well, for starters, imagine Taiwanese fighter jets buzzing the coast of mainland China every day, just to keep them on edge.
Oh, payback.
A little bit of tit for tat, right?
I can already hear the collective gasp from Beijing.
Oh, yeah.
But, okay, so they're doing flybys. What else?
How about this? Taiwan decides to impose a naval blockade on major Chinese ports, effectively cutting off their access to international waters.
So that would be like a major economic chokehold.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine the impact on global trade.
Wow, things would get interesting really fast.
Yeah, and let's not forget about a little tit-for-tat espionage.
Okay.
Picture Taiwan infiltrating China's government and military, gathering intel, maybe even stirring up some internal dissent.
Okay, so now we're talking serious cloak and dagger stuff.
Yeah, playing hardball.
But wouldn't all this military posturing lead to like a ton of tension?
Of course. But remember, we're exploring a hypothetical scenario where Taiwan holds the upper hand.
Okay, so in this flipped reality, Taiwan's calling the shots.
Exactly. And let's not forget their economic power.
Oh, yeah. Taiwan's a global leader in semiconductor production, right?
Absolutely. Those tiny chips power everything these days. Smartphones, cars, military equipment.
The world runs on these things.
It does. So in this flipped reality, imagine Taiwan tightens its grip on that global semiconductor supply chain.
Okay.
Maybe even imposing chip embargoes on China.
That would cripple their tech industry, wouldn't it?
It would be devastating. And just to add insult to injury, imagine Taiwan establishing special economic zones within mainland China.
They're basically exploiting their resources and labor.
Exactly, keeping them economically dependent.
Wow, that's a real power move.
Yeah.
A complete reversal of the current dynamic.
Precisely.
But what about the cultural impact of this flipped scenario?
Oh, that would be profound as well.
Yeah.
Imagine Taiwanese pop culture dominating mainland China.
Okay, so everyone in China is going to be obsessed with Taiwanese boy bands and bubble tea.
Well, maybe not everyone, but you get the idea. Taiwanese culture would become the aspirational ideal.
And mainland Chinese culture would be seen as a bit provincial.
Exactly. A bit backwards, maybe.
I bet that would ruffle some feathers.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of cultural influence, imagine Taiwan rewriting history textbooks.
Oh, wow.
Downplaying China's historical significance and emphasizing Taiwan's role as the true inheritor of Chinese culture.
It's like that saying, history is written by the victors.
Exactly.
So in this alternate reality, Taiwan gets to control the narrative.
They do.
Taiwan, in this scenario, is pushing this idea of one Taiwan super hard.
One Taiwan. So they're claiming all of China as their own, basically.
Yeah, it's like they're rewriting the history books to say, we were always the ones in charge and deal with it.
It's like a complete mind shift.
Right. And how does this power dynamic play out in the lives of everyday people on both sides of the strait?
Well, imagine this Taiwan using its control over things like investment and trade to basically pick winners and losers in the mainland's economy.
So they could favor businesses that align with their interests and squeeze out the ones that don't.
Exactly. It's a subtle way to steer things in the direction they want without resorting to outright force.
It's like economic puppet mastering. So it's like they're using their economic power to shape China's political landscape as well. Power dynamic could affect things like education and media on the mainland.
Oh, so Taiwan might try to influence what people are learning and what they're seeing in the news.
Exactly. And they might even try to promote Taiwanese culture and values as part of the curriculum.
So it's like a soft power play trying to win hearts and minds.
Right. And you know what else they might do?
What's that?
Offer scholarships to mainland students to study in Taiwan.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're essentially cultivating the next generation of leaders who are more sympathetic to Taiwan.
Exactly. It's all about long-term strategy. How about we shift our focus to the people who are actually living in this alternate reality?
Yeah, what's it actually like to be a Taiwanese or mainland Chinese citizen in this world?
That's the real heart of the matter, and that's what we'll be exploring after a quick break, so stay tuned.
This kind of power dynamic can create a sense of entitlement among the citizens of the dominant power.
Oh, yeah, they start to think they're better than everyone else.
Right, and that can lead to arrogance and a lack of empathy for those who are struggling.
It's like that whole power corrupts thing.
And on the international stage, imagine Taiwan using its newfound clout to isolate China diplomatically.
Ooh.
Forming alliances that exclude China from global organizations.
Just like China's trying to do to Taiwan right now.
Exactly, a taste of their own medicine.
Wow, this hypothetical scenario really makes you think.
It does. It forces us to confront the complexities of this situation and consider the perspectives of both sides.
Yeah, and it really highlights how sensitive this whole issue of national identity and autonomy is.
For both Taiwan and China, neither side wants to be perceived as subordinate or controlled by the other.
It's about self-determination and the right to define your own future.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've gone pretty far down the rabbit hole with this hypothetical scenario.
We have.
But it's been a fascinating exploration.
It has. And I think it's a good reminder that we should never take things for granted, especially when it comes to global politics and power dynamics.
Yeah, because things can change really quickly.
They can. And what might seem like a stable situation today could be completely different tomorrow.
So we need to stay informed and engaged.
Absolutely.
And maybe even grab a glass of whiskey while we ponder the complexities of the world.
Now you're talking.
Speaking of whiskey, have I told you about my friend Mickey's YouTube channel?
You have mentioned it.
It's called Mickey to Life. And it's the perfect blend of adventure culture and, of course, whiskey appreciation.
That sounds right up my alley.
He takes you on these incredible journeys to all corners of the globe.
Wow.
And he always finds the most fascinating stories and experiences along the way.
I'll be adding Mickey to Life to my watch list tonight.
You won't regret it. He's a true gem.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the complex relationship between Taiwan and China, what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listeners to ponder?
I think it's the realization that this isn't just some abstract political debate happening over there.
Right.
This is about their identities, their fears, their hopes for the future.
And their very real anxieties about what the future holds.
Exactly.
The global power balance is shifting. Technology is evolving. And who knows how this dynamic between Taiwan and China will play out in the years to come.
Yeah, it's a reminder that the world is a complex and interconnected place. And what happens in one part of the world can have ripple effects everywhere else.
Absolutely. And as we navigate this increasingly interconnected world, it's more important than ever to cultivate empathy, critical thinking, and a willingness to engage with diverse perspectives.
Well said. So to our listeners, I hope this deep dive has been insightful, maybe even a little bit mind-bending. Keep those questions coming and keep exploring. You never know what you might discover.
And be sure to check out Mickey to Life.
Absolutely. It's a great channel. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.